And we're back.
We're back.
We're back.
Whew.
Man.
Lake Fork.
Doubt me now. Because,
it's got them. It's got some fish in it, my man.
Oh, man. If I still had a boat, I would be ordering a PatScope tomorrow.
Patrick Walters, front-facing. It's front-facing sonar.
Yeah.
That's what you got to call it.
Right.
When you're the Bassmaster, you're not sponsored by Garmin. You got to call it front-facing sonar. We're gonna get into Patrick Walters. We're gonna get into Lake Fork. We're gonna talk about Angler of the Year race that we just saw go down. We're gonna talk about the Rookie of the Year race we just saw go down. We're gonna talk about all the Lake Fork goodness gracious that we just saw go down, and we're pretty sure that the Bassmaster of Lake Fork, Mr. Patrick Walters himself, I don't think he's human.
No, he's not.
I think he might be one with that old LiveScope on the front. He might be machine, and that's why he gets along with that LiveScope so well. That might be, I guarantee you, he's as precise as any machine.
Yeah. Yeah. He, so I know for sure he doesn't have gills because he tucks his shirt in. So.
Into some really short shorts.
like, I ain't gonna go in too hard on him, but the girls at my high school couldn't wear shorts that short.
They weren't. It was out of dress code.
The 3-finger rule.
It was out of dress code, hand.
3 fingers above the knee, as far as you can go.
He did have some unique style of shorts there, but I'll tell you what.
Hey man, I love it.
I'm sure somebody likes it. He's got a lovely young bride. He seems like a great young man. I got to talk to his father today at the event. His father seems like a great guy. Yeah. Patrick actually gave me his contact info a couple days ago. We are going to have a podcast coming up. Hopefully our next podcast, next Sunday night, we're going to have Patrick Walters as a guest. And we're going to really break down what he did with him next week. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what he did from what we saw, from our point of view, our perspective. We'll get his perspective next week. Man, first thing I got to talk about tonight, Chris, is just let's talk about Lake Fork for a minute. We've seen the Bassmasters go through this fall series for the first time ever. Unprecedented. First time we've ever seen the Bassmasters fish this many tournaments in the fall. And we've gone, the way they drew, kudos to them for drawing such an amazing schedule, and then on the readjustment, really trying to hone in on the best big bass lakes in the country we hit in the fall, and kind of the peak of the fall period.
At each lake, yeah. And
we just saw struggle, relatively speaking. All these lakes fish below the standards we expect for them.
And you know, unless we have a similar type schedule in the future, I don't know that we'll ever know whether it was kind of a fluke deal, whether it was just the way it is, or, you know, there's just not knowing. But as far as having to realign the whole entire schedule, I think they nailed it.
They did as good as they could.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we saw them go to Gunnersville and it took 60-something pounds. Chickamauga took, was it in the 60s or in the high 50s?
58.
58 pounds to win Chickamauga. It's only 15 pounds a day, 14 pounds, 14 and a half pounds a day technically, if you want to be precise. Santee Cooper was a little bit earlier in the fall. It was a little bit better, 72 pounds there. Polnick did catch a 20-pound bag on day 4 to win that event. But we've seen all these lakes struggle.
Do I need to get out the leaderboard?
No, you don't. I'm pretty familiar with what went down. What we saw today was the century mark, 104 pounds from Patrick Walters. Now, we're going to talk more about how Patrick caught him, and it's a little bit of an anomaly, a unique deal how he caught him. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't expect that to go down everywhere. It was really a weird deal, a unique deal. I shouldn't say weird. It was unique. It was amazing. It was an amazing performance by him. But even if you took second place, 75 pounds.
Yeah.
That blows out Gunnersville. That blows out Chickamauga. And it beats out Santee Cooper, which was way earlier in the fall, quite a bit earlier in the fall when the bite was seemed to be a little bit better. Mm-hmm. You'd have a hard time lining up 3 tougher lakes to compete against when it comes to big bass. If you want to compare big bass lakes, Santee Cooper, Gunnersville, and Chickamauga are as good a 3 lakes as you can pick over the last 10 years. No doubt about it, hands down. Lake Fork just beat all of them in as close to a head-to-head competition as you can get. And even if we take the first place finisher out of it, Lake Fork still beat them.
Yeah.
It kicked out the biggest bass out of all of them.
If you watched a bunch of the live coverage like I did,
like I did.
Yeah.
And some from the water. I watched a lot from a couple days from the water.
I mean, I'm honestly surprised I'm still employed but nonetheless, I mean, I told y'all I was gonna do it. I mean, I am notorious when these big tournaments come to town.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there on that phone going.
Are you telling me that on Thursday and Friday your regular job work performance was not at its peak?
I wouldn't say it wasn't at its peak. It just took a lot longer to do certain things.
There's a little delay in movement there.
But that's the good thing about my job too. I do have that option on Thursday
Right.
and Friday to kind of relax and take my time. But yeah, I was sitting there just watching it, and you know, we'll get into more of how Patrick caught him in a little bit. But I mean, to be able to focus on that right there, and make it work for you.
That's just crazy. And I know we just said this, and I'm going back to it. I'm repeating myself, but I just want to think about this for a second. It's just crazy to me because this is the first time I really thought about it. Now that we're sitting here talking about it tonight. And by the way, I'm pretty sure this is the first full-on podcast reaction content of this tournament. It just ended a few hours ago, and here we are, right? So, but when you think about, even if you take the Patrick Walters thing out, what he did, take it away. Keith Combs in second place at 75 pounds. That is better than anything they did on Guntersville, Chickamauga, or Santee Cooper. How any other lake can ever come and say that it is a better day in, day out trophy bass fishing lake than Lake Fork, nobody else has an argument.
Right.
Because we've had bass fishing tournaments on Clear Lake where it doesn't take that much to win.
Right.
We've had bass fishing tournaments on these other lakes where obviously now Guntersville, it takes 15, 18, 20 pounds a day to win. On Lake Fork, you better catch 25 or you're not in the ball game, even when she fishes tough. And when she fishes at her peak like she did in 2014 for Keith Combs, that's 110 pounds in 3 days. You better catch like 35 to 40 pounds a day.
Yeah.
At that point, like every day, no slip-ups.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So the deal that sticks out in my head was, they put a deal up of the century mark in a 4-day tournament. And you look at these lakes, and we're talking about like Falcon in its prime. And you just did it at Lake Fork in the fall, Jack.
Lake Fork has been fishing as tough, about as tough as it ever really fishes. It doesn't really ever get much more tough than it's been here lately.
And you just did Falcon numbers in the fall, cuz.
That's right.
That's I mean,
like forever and ever, when guys hit a century mark, you're like, oh my God, they killed them.
No. Yeah, no, it was tough.
No, at Fork, it's like guys are out there scratching their head going, man, is there any fish in this lake?
Dude.
And then somebody still hits the century mark. Unbelievable lake. This is why we always said, this is why we talk about, there's so many guides on Lake Fork, and the reason the guiding business is so good, because there literally is never a bad time to visit Lake Fork. Because even when she's fishing as bad as she fishes, which she has been lately, she's been fishing as bad as she can, there's still those days. Like, even though we're not all as good as Patrick Walters and we're not LiveScoping, we still have Rick Clunn had one of those days. Lee Livesey had a tough tournament, but he finished in the top 10.
Right.
By Lee's standards on Lake Fork, it wasn't what he wanted.
Right.
But he still had one of those days, 26-pound bag. Like, it still will kick out these giant bags and these 9-pounders and these 8-pounders. And I mean, and how many big giant fish did you hear on the live covers where guys like, man, I lost that big one? We saw Rick Clunn lose a big one. We saw several guys lose 7, 8, 9-pound fish in this tournament. Hey, and if they land those, who knows what the weights are? Like, it's insane how great this lake truly is. 9 out of the top 10 bass that have ever been caught in the history of the state of Texas. It's like 37 or 38 out of the top 50 bass that have ever been caught out of the state of Texas have all come from one place, and it's Lake Fork.
You know what really blows my mind? So Keith Combs got second with 75 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, per the standards of the fish that swim in Lake Fork, he still could have potentially won that tournament. Isn't that crazy to think?
And he was 30 pounds behind?
Yeah, he was, almost 30.
Well, they said it on the stage today, whenever he was weighing in at the weigh-in, which I was at the weigh-in today. Mm-hmm. When Keith Combs weighed in, Dave Mercer told him, he's like, hey, because Keith Combs had a horrible day one.
Yes.
And he goes, hey, if we could go redo day one, Keith, who knows? We can pop that 30 to 35 pounds in a day and make it up real quick. And, man, I tell you what, this was, for me, this will go down as one of my favorite experiences at Lake Fork. I remember the 2014 TTBC like yesterday. I remember the 2015 TTBC when it was a 30-pound average to win then, 30-plus pound average to win then. And Brent Ayler, caught a 10-pounder on his last cast of the last day to win the tournament and the truck.
Yep.
Unbelievable tournament. Remember that one. This will go down as one of my favorite memories from Lake Fork because watching this tournament as thoroughly as I did and getting out there on the water and seeing, not getting on top of those guys, but seeing the areas they were fishing, I think I learned more from that group of anglers over the last 4 days than I've learned in probably the last few years on Lake Fork. Because I've been fishing Lake Fork so long, I kind of know what I know.
Right.
But those guys went there at a time when nobody was catching them. They figured out how to catch them, and it really opened my eyes. And I'll tell you what, I'm as excited for next week of fishing, for this next week of fishing, as I have been about any week in a long time.
Just because of what you learned.
I learned so much, and I've got all these new ideas, and I've got these other areas that look kind of like the area that Walters was using, and I want to try it out. And I'm just so excited to go back to Lake Fork this week. Now, this tournament, I kind of owe Bassmasters a big thank you because they just totally re-energized me as a fisherman on Lake Fork. I mean, I'm always excited when I get to Lake Fork. I always know the potential, but I'm really, really, really excited for next week because of what I was able to witness with those guys and how they broke down different areas and the areas they were choosing to fish and how they were choosing to fish them. I just learned a ton. Good news for all of you. I actually have went out and done like a vlog documentary type video. It's going to be at least a 2-part video. I got so much content where I actually took the camera out with me and I show you guys these areas they're fishing, talk about what's there from my experience and knowing these areas on the lake, and talk about how they're fishing, how they're getting these fish to bite when nobody else was getting them to bite at Lake Fork. Nobody's been getting them to bite consistently at Lake Fork, but these guys pulled it off. We're going to break all that down in more detail than you've ever seen from us before. And I am really, really proud of the videos that we have coming out this week. I think it's some of, if not the best content we've ever created. So hopefully you guys will look forward to it. I really want y'all's feedback on that. Let me know what y'all think when y'all get to see those videos. What about some questions and comments? Let's see. Big John's Life, what is up, y'all? Bass monkey fishing. You guys are killing me with the suspense. What was he doing with that Panoptics? How many dial this thing in? Well, where are we on the schedule here? Let me grab the schedule for tonight and see where we're at.
Let me say something while you're checking that out. What other lake? I'm going to backtrack. I'm looking at the leaderboard right here. What other lake in the country can you miss your limit by 4 fish and land in the top 10? Stetson Blaylock. Stetson Blaylock caught 16 fish total.
Stetson Blaylock only caught 16 fish in the tournament. He was in the top 10 because he was catching pounds. Some heads, big old heads.
That's crazy.
Crazy lake. It's an insane lake. It's
Sorry,
insane.
I know we talk ourselves in circles, but
the victory margin, by the way, we can't. You know what? We're going to switch and move Patrick Walters up here, and we're going to talk about AOY and Rookie of the Year after Patrick Walters.
29.10 is what I come up with.
Yeah, 30 pounds, 29 pounds, 10 ounces by Chris's math, subject to be wrong, 100%.
I can still count better than Nevada can.
Shots fired. Shots fired. Nice one, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the previous margin of victory record on the Bassmasters history was 15 pounds.
That's right.
He essentially doubled the margin of victory all-time record.
That looked like, I'll tell you what Championship Sunday looked like for Patrick Walters. Patrick Walters was in fighting Texas Aggies, and everybody else was the South Carolina Gamecocks, because that was a straight whipping.
Ooh, he went to South Carolina. That's probably.
Ooh.
We're supposed to talk to him next week. Let's retract that statement.
Well, he flipped roles for Championship Sunday.
He went to South Carolina in college. I'm pretty sure.
Pretty sure he didn't play football though.
Maybe he was a Clemson hand. I'm pretty sure he went to South Carolina. He's from South Carolina. I know that.
Oh man.
Yeah. So what was the question about? What was Patrick? Somebody asked what he was doing.
What he was doing with the Panoptics.
What was he doing with that Panoptics? How many dial this in? So here's the deal. Yes, he was using Garmin. He was using Humminbird 360. He was using Garmin, and he was using everything. He's got 3 giant graphs up there in front of his boat. He was using all of it. Patrick Walters has seemingly become the foremost expert at using all of the modern technology together to get the best picture. You guys have heard me talk to this point with my Lowrance units that I use. Now I'm only using Lowrance, but I always talk about it. I always want to see side imaging, I want to see down imaging, I want to see sonar. I want all the information. and I always say, if you're going to read a book, you don't want to skip a chapter.
Right.
Like, I want every word. I want to know everything I can of the picture under me in the water. Patrick Walters is using all of today's latest and greatest modern technology to get the best picture of what's happening underneath the water around his boat. To explain to you what Patrick Walters was doing, I can tell you right now, it was not a structure or area type of pattern. It almost didn't matter where he was fishing. There was some key depths and he needed to have fish around there, but it wasn't like he was fishing up some points or creek bends. There was nothing in particular. In fact, his main area that he caught most of his weight on in this tournament, where he started his mornings on, guys, there's nothing there. There's nothing dynamic in that area. In fact, he wasn't even fishing a spot. He was just fishing an area. The only thing I can say that was unique about it is some of the timber there's a little more isolated versus being part of a massive forest of timber. It was a little more isolated timber, a little bit smaller areas. So it made it easier. If you're going to have fish in this area, they're going to be here.
Right.
But there wasn't like a big creek bend. There wasn't nothing like that. The deal that he was doing is he was pulling up to these trees. Now, he went around and pre-fishing, looking on LiveScope and 360, and when he would see a fish that looked like a tree that looked like it had fish on it, he put that LiveScope on it, that Garmin LiveScope, and if he saw what he interpreted to be good bass on that tree, he'd mark a waypoint. He didn't even make a cast in pre-fishing. All he did was go around and mark trees that had fish on it. And then he pulled up to those on tournament day, eased into them, put his Garmin on. Oh, yep, there's still fish on that tree. Okay? And he is so precise with knowing where that LiveScope is pointing, exactly where those fish are relating to that tree, and where his angle is relating to that tree. And he would make a precision cast with that jerkbait. He would twitch it real fast. It was almost like, it looked like, from best I could tell, he would twitch it and work it pretty fast for a jerkbait, like real fast, until he would see one react and come off that tree and look at it. And when one would react and come out to that tree, he'd stop it, and he'd pause it, and that fish would get up close to it, and he'd twitch it just a little bit, and that fish would get a little bit closer, and he would go from doing this, and then all of a sudden he'd stop, and he'd start going. And he would just do these little subtle twitches with that jerkbait, and it's suspending down there, and it's jerking, jerking, jerking. That fish reacts and looks at it, and he stops it, and the fish is looking at it, and he goes, until that fish reached out and grabbed it, and then he had it. He was watching these fish in real time. He's looking at his LiveScope, twitching, twitching, twitching. Fish comes out, stop, light twitch, light twitch. And he's watching this fish react. And if that fish turned to go away, he'd twitch it harder and make him come back to it. Or if that fish bailed, he'd just reel in and go to the next tree. But he was spending 100% of the cast Patrick Walters made in this tournament, he was throwing at a fish. He never made a cast in water where there wasn't any fish.
You talk about being able to focus. That is a grind in itself. Even though he caught 104 pounds, that is a freaking grind to sit there and, because I mean, your hookup rate versus cast rate is not great. You know, I mean, he caught more fish than a lot of people did, but at the same time, he didn't catch no 30 fish a day. You know? No, but that's Lake Fork, and that's a lake that's fishing tough. Right.
The reason he was able to blow it out was because it's fishing tough, and other guys were making a lot of their casts and not even getting it next to a fish.
Right.
And we all do. When we go bass fishing, we don't. Every time we cast is not on top of a fish's head. Patrick Walters, every time he made a cast, he was throwing it at a fish. He was sight fishing when nobody else was sight fishing. Imagine this: it's April. Around here, that's the peak of the spawn. There's a ton of fish on beds. And you go to the lake, your favorite lake, Lake Fork, wherever it is, fish on beds everywhere. And you're going sight fishing, and nobody else is even looking at them.
That's what just happened. Pretty much, in a nutshell.
That's exactly what just happened.
Yeah.
He is so far advanced on his understanding and his precision and execution with those electronics and seeing those fish. He is essentially bed fishing right now, in the middle of fall, in 10 to 20 foot of water around timber. Game change. This moment today changed this sport. In my opinion, this moment today just changed this sport forever.
Yeah, for sure.
I really believe it did.
I mean, it's one thing to pull up. You pull up on a deep spot in summertime, we'll call it. Throw out a big flipping jig, big football jig.
Yeah, you grab them, you see them, you turn around and throw at them.
Right. You're not
But you don't know that fish is nosing on your jig.
Right.
Like, if I threw my football jig out there in the summer on 25 foot of water and I watch that fish swim up to it, I could hop it and make him bite it like I do on a bed.
For sure.
Or sit there and shake it like I do on a bed or whatever have you.
This changes everything.
This changes everything. Our sport of bass fishing just changed forever today. I personally believe it did.
So you always hear about people, with the drop shot, on them smallmouth lakes, sitting there video gaming them. That today, this tournament, that's video gaming.
It's on a whole new level.
That drop shot stuff.
It was video gaming, but it was like Atari, and now this dude's got like a PS5.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
He's playing on a high-tech PC, and everybody else is playing the old school Nintendo.
One thing I want to clear up, I am seeing some of the comments as they come across, and we'll get to some more comments here later, but I'm seeing some guys calling this panoptics. One thing I do want to clear up, and I don't know why, it's just my OCD. It's like when people call coontail hydraulic. It bothers me for some reason.
Right.
But these aren't panoptics. Garmin makes panoptics and Garmin makes LiveScope. And to explain the difference to you guys, they're both forward-facing real-time sonars. But panoptics is like 2D sonar, old school color 2D sonar.
Yeah.
LiveScope is like down imaging, side imaging, but looking forward in real time.
That's right.
So that's the difference. You got like a 2D sonar versus a down image, but they're both real time. He's not using panoptics. Nobody's really using panoptics anymore that's using a Garmin. They're using LiveScope.
Yeah,
it's a different technology.
Take your down scan and watch things swim around and move.
Yeah, it's a real-time down scan in front of your boat.
That's right.
It's just unbelievable. It's a video. It's like having a camera out into the water. Now, the fish don't look exactly like fish look on camera. They're little blobs. But between, like we talk about on our other electronics, and this is me just guessing, between the size of the fish and the way they relate to each other within the schools, the spacing, the positioning, you can tell which ones are bass and which are. Patrick Walters can tell what's bass and what's crappie and whatnot. Oh, yeah. Just like I can go out and use my graphs, and if I'm driving over them, graphing them on my console graph, and I got my side and my down and my sonar working, I can tell you which schools of fish are which species. Mm-hmm. And I'm right 90% of the time. Well, Patrick Walters is able to do that with that forward-looking LiveScope.
Patrick Walters can tell you how many spots are on each fish.
Yeah, he probably could. He's not human, folks. I believe he is a machine, and that's why he's so in sync with all these machines.
Yeah.
That's my real takeaway and theory of what just went on.
Artificial intelligence.
So let's go ahead and address this right now before we move on to Angler of the Year. Since we're talking so much about all this LiveScope stuff, you wanted to talk about something tonight. The Alabama rig, Paul Elias came on the scene on Guntersville with the Alabama rig and smoked them.
Yeah.
And it was like, after the first day, everybody was scrambling around Guntersville, Alabama, trying to buy Alabama rigs. And if they didn't have one, they weren't in the tournament.
That's right.
BASS and FLW at the time both banned the Alabama rig going into the next season because it was such an unfair playing field if you had an Alabama rig versus didn't.
And it even got so much publicity that even at my level of fishing or just a recreational tournament fisherman, like media, bass champs, like you can't throw them there either. So it went.
Yeah, you can. Most of them you can.
Well,
some you can't. Some have
some
outlawed.
you can't. Some that I fish you cannot.
But everybody can buy Alabama rigs.
Right.
And outside of that one tournament where it took everybody by surprise, everybody can buy Alabama rigs. Right? Well, now all these guys have LiveScope. And I've actually heard this comment and had people talk to me about this personally several times this weekend while this tournament was going on, and he was beating everybody by so much, is will these LiveScope forward-facing real-time sonar technologies, will those go the way of the A-rig and be outlawed from the top level of tournament fishing? Will they? I don't know. Should they? In my opinion, absolutely not.
No, I think you should open it up.
I also think Alabama rigs should be outlawed. I think if it's within your state regulations to have that many hooks, however many hooks the state law says you can use, you should be able to use Alabama rigs. If everybody can use them, let's catch all these fish, Jack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I want to see these guys catch all of them.
Here's my deal. So you're looking at how many, and there's no way to answer this, but how many people do you think were watching this tournament on the live stream and added a new.
Oh, they sold Garmin sold
Yeah,
a lot of
that's what I'm
graphs.
saying. Went and opened up a new web page and been like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead. Yep, just bought one.
Garmin sold a lot of graphs this weekend. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
100,000%.
It's a better. It makes for a better TV product, and just like the A-Rig. Let's catch them all.
Yeah.
Like, open
there's
the door.
really no reason for the Alabama rig to be outlawed.
Especially now. 10-point.
We've never done a podcast this good. We are on the
Ever.
same page, man. We're on the
Ever.
same page.
I mean, like you said, we talk about BASS versus BPT and the TV product and how many eyeballs it catches. Well, there's no doubt that the more big fish and the more fish total you catch, the better TV product you have. So, hey, if y'all are watching at BASS, let's open the doors. Let's throw
Bring
some
the
A-rigs.
Alabama rig back.
Let's go.
Bring the Alabama rig back. Let's soup up these electronics. Let's get it going. I can assure you this. I don't know whether they will or they won't. I really don't know. This was such a crazy performance. He doubled the all-time margin of victory record. So this is going to get a lot of people's attention. And I don't know whether they will or they won't end up banning this type of technology from the tour. What I do know is I don't want them to.
I don't think they
And until they do, every guy that just got his butt whipped is about to spend the next 3 months before the Bassmasters Classic at Ray Roberts staring at a Garmin LiveScope. Every one of those guys that qualify for the Classic is about to spend 3 months staring at a LiveScope until they get to Ray Roberts.
There's way too much money to be made for them to ban it.
Because they're going to fish. Now, they're going to be fishing Ray Roberts in March.
Yeah,
I think it's March that they're fishing the Classic at Roberts.
I think that's
Is it
right.
February or March? I don't know. We'll have to check on that. I can tell you this. If it's still cold, in Roberts, usually it's a deeper lake, a little bit more rocky lake. The spawn progress is usually a little bit behind fork, 2 or 3 weeks. Well, even if it's in March, if you back up 2 or 3 weeks, that's pre-spawn, buddy. And on Ray Roberts, which is a pretty steep banked lake with a lot of timber and more rock, right? If it's still cold at all, that LiveScope deal that we just saw should absolutely play at Ray Roberts. And if somebody's on a LiveScope deal and has that big of an advantage in the class, I guarantee you these guys are all fixing to spend all their time staring at these LiveScopes, trying to figure out after what we just saw.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you?
And to be honest and to be fair, as soon as I get one on my boat, I will be staring at it a lot too. Every day that I don't have a gotcha.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Every day that I don't have a gotcha,
Why
I'll be
wouldn't you?
staring at it and practicing and learning.
I mean, you're literally, you're eliminating so many blind, like, just,
You just opened up so much more of the lake.
Yeah.
These random areas these suspended fish that we never really quite understood how to catch, now we know how.
Yeah.
You just got to be good enough at it to get them to go. It's crazy times.
how many fish are you going to catch that you don't know or that are not there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What better way though for us to have like this mind-blowing, mind-boggling event where somebody catches him when he shouldn't and he blows everybody up with something? How else should 2020 win in the bass fishing world?
Right.
Like for the year of 2020, it's got to be crazy and everything it does. Well, this was daggum crazy. Ain't no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, we've gone a long time on Patrick Walters, and I'm glad we did because he deserves it. We are, like I said, we're supposed to have a call lined up with him for the next podcast next Sunday, and we're going to really get in depth with him on we're going to try to get him to give up the goods as much as we can when we talk to Patrick Walters next week on this podcast. So you guys hang on for that. But
It might be the power of the shorts, man. I just don't know.
it might just be the shorts. That's
may
true.
have
It
nothing
could
to
be.
do- It may have nothing to do with LiveScope. It might just
could be them Daisy Dukes that boy.
Might be some cut-off dockers. Hey, man, I've been known to wear some jorts, so no disrespect here.
Right. You are a George Scott guy.
Oh, yeah, I'll rock them.
Yeah,
I'll rock
absolutely.
'em.
So let's talk about what went down. Rookie of the Year, Austin Felix. We want to say congratulations to Austin Felix. Had a great first season on the Bassmaster Elite Series.
He's a hammer.
Finished up and won Rookie of the Year. A very good batch of rookies.
Yeah,
A
pretty solid.
very good batch of rookies on the Bassmaster Elite Series this year. Angler of the Year, one I want to spend a little more time on. If you're from Texas and you've been into the outdoors industry for a long time, you've been a fan of the outdoors, you've participated in outdoors activities, you know who Clark Windlet is.
Mhm.
He used to host one of the best outdoors TV shows we have in Texas, Cabela's Handbook. He's a great fisherman. He's been around forever. He's done a lot of things on the professional tour level. When the Bassmasters opened up and we had the mass exodus to the BPT, man, Clark got back in the Bassmaster Elite Series, and he has made the most of it. and he just kept off an amazing season, winning Angler of the Year. And buddy, that was as tight a race as we've ever seen for Angler of the Year.
That was a nail biter.
Usually by the time you get to the last couple days of competition, you will know who the Angler of the Year is, and there's no chance for anybody to catch him.
And there was still 5 or 6 different scenarios down to dang near the last cast.
Hey, he had to catch a 114 to move him up a few spots in the standings. Correct. Just to make sure he didn't get past.
That's right.
Because he was sitting in 30th, and if he finished 32nd, he wasn't going to win. A guy that was sitting at the house that didn't make a cut, David Mullins, would have won.
Mm-hmm.
It was insane, man, and I feel for David Mullins. David Mullins, great year to David Mullins.
Mm-hmm.
Tough tournament to finish on. I know David felt like he was on some good fish going into the tournament and felt like he had a chance to have a good event. Unfortunately for him, a lot of other people found the same fish.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of cannibalized each other, and some of them did better than others, but a lot of those guys that were fishing those areas didn't do so well through the full 2 days.
Didn't you say before this tournament even kicked off, didn't you say it was going to be a numbers game? Fish management was going to be key?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did.
And it played out exactly.
Except for Patrick Walters.
Except for Patrick.
Yeah, these guys were going to have to manage the fish they were catching. And when you start getting other Elite Series level guys in there, it's impossible to manage your fish. So that was a real issue for some of these guys, including David Mullins. He just had a hard time getting on stuff he wanted to fish because there was other guys there.
Right.
But anyway, back to Clark Wendlandt. What a great performance by him. He made a big decision at the end of the day. He'd been fishing in one area for 2 days and made the cut fishing in that area. He goes in there the 3rd day. He fishes most of the day in there, half the day in there, something like that. And he's only ground out 2 bites, and he's just out of fish. He's out of fish. Like we talk about fish. He's out of fish. He makes a big run from the way far back at a major creek, runs halfway up the other side of the lake, and goes into another creek arm and goes into a little pocket of it and goes to fishing some docks. And ends up getting 2 bites in there. One put him into 30th, and the next one put him up to 28th. And by the time he got to 28th, now he's got 4 guys that got to pass him, and he secured a 1 pound, 14 ounce fish, secured Angler of the Year, and literally he caught that fish and like made one more cast and then had to go. And he was out of time, and he had to rush back, and he was like barely making it in. So in the last minute, the 11th hour, Clark Wendlandt clutches up, catches a almost 2 pound keeper, and that secures Angler of the Year for Clark Wendlandt. And the bad thing was everybody that was chasing him, that was right behind him, they had another 20 minutes to fish. They were in the next flight.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them. All like the 2 guys between 31st and 32nd,
sitting on pins and
both
needles,
had 20 more minutes to fish, and they only needed 1 keeper pass to pass him. So that 114 is what won Angler of the Year for Clark Wendlandt.
When does it ever come down to the average size keeper? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, for an AO average.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, think about this. If he had just his only fall off the rails disaster of the year was Chickamauga.
Mm-hmm.
He caught 1 keeper at Chickamauga. If he didn't catch that keeper,
he'd be out.
He didn't win Angler of the Year. So there's 2 squeaker keepers that Clark Wendlandt caught that won that Angler of the Year.
Always weigh your fish.
Every bite counts.
Always
Jack.
weigh your fish.
Every bite counts. It was awesome. One thing I want to touch on right now, since we're talking about Angler of the Year. You know, we promote the FishLife app here. I do the FishLife app. The spots that are on the FishLife app, Lake Fork Premium Package, I put those spots on there myself. It is something we're really proud of. We worked really hard on. If you don't know the FishLife app, the Life is spelled with a Y, L-Y-F-E, and you can find it on Google Play Store. You can find it on iTunes, Apple, the App Store for Apple. You can also find it on a web app for all device types at www.fishlife.net. Remember, the Life is spelled with a Y.
Why is that?
Because it's the best damn fishing app out there. And just to prove that, I've often suspected this because every time these tour level pros show up on one of these lakes that we have a premium FishLife package, several of the leaders always end up on some of the spots that are featured on the app. And I've always maintained the belief that these guys aren't using the app. They're just finding really good spots, and we're working really hard to find really good spots to put on the app. And hey, it speaks to the validity of our app because the best fishermen in the world are fishing the same stuff that we're finding. So that's a big compliment to us, and we were proud to have that compliment. But I now know for a fact that there are guys on the Bassmaster Elite Series buying and using the FishLife app when they fish these tournaments. One of them actually came up and talked to me about it. Not going to mention any names. One of them came up and talked to me about it, and told me for a fact that he used it the last time he was here in May last year. He used it and did a lot better. This year he forgot to buy it and he had a bad tournament. And he was like telling me, as just a nice guy, he's like, man, I should have bought the app. That was awesome to hear. And then as I sit down and watch what's going on, so many of the early leaders in this tournament were fishing spots that we feature on the FishLife app. Seth Fighter had some spots on there. David Mullins was trying to fish some of the stuff we had on there. Chris Zaldane was fishing some of the stuff we had on there. Tons of guys. The guy that was in second for most of the tournament, the guy that was winning the other than Patrick Walters tournament for 3 days, Ed Lochran, he was fishing. Most of his weight came off an area that's marked on the FishLife app. Clark Windlet was fishing areas that were marked on the FishLife app. Clark, where he was fishing back in that creek for 2 days, is a spot that we have marked on the app. When he left that and made that run to go fish those docks, it was also, we have a spot marked in that cove that says we're catching fish on these docks on a finesse jig. It's exactly what he did. Again, I don't know if Clark's using the app. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I would never think that Clark Windlet needs my help. He's a freaking legend of Texas fishing. But the fact remains, if you go subscribe to the FishLife app Lake Fork Premium package, or really any of our packages for that matter,
Yep.
you are going to get to understand the patterns, the current patterns that are going on the same level of quality that these touring pros are. It will literally show you the same quality of patterns that these tour pros are finding. We're really, really proud. When we say we put out the best information available on the bass fishing market ever, we mean it. And we're proud of it. We've worked really hard on it, and it's a big feather in our cap that I'm really proud of. So that was awesome to see how many of those guys were around those areas that we worked so hard to find for y'all.
That's a humbling experience for sure.
Mm-hmm. Hey, and I'm missing some too, guys. Like I mentioned, I rattled off all those several names. There was plenty of others that were around those areas too, I promise you.
Man, I can't tell you how many times I'm sitting there watching live going,
You know that area? I know that, yeah, absolutely, of course. Let's see what else we got here tonight. We've actually covered the agenda items. Let's get to some questions.
Get it.
Let's get to some questions. We may do a spontaneous Ditty Do It.
Ditty Do It.
We might do it. Who wants to see a Ditty Do It? Let us know in the comments right now. How many weeks behind is the app? How often is it updated? We do full updates at the beginning of every month. So it's month to month. Every single month you get a full batch of updates. Now sometimes when conditions change, we do more than one update a month. If something drastic happens with the weather patterns or something, we try to get on top of that. This last time I held the Lake Fork updates. Normally we do them by the 1st. This last time we had that drastic cold front that came in last week, and then we had the 1st on Sunday. Well, I actually didn't update it until Wednesday, because the reason I didn't is because we had such crazy weather changes. I wanted to let that get stabilized a little bit and see what was going on before I put out new information on the app. So we always are keeping it current all the time, man. You can just open it and know if that information's on there, it's legit. What are the rules for the pros against talking to locals before an upcoming tournament? They are not allowed to, on the Bassmaster, I don't know, I'd have to go read them. I believe the rule is they are not allowed to solicit information from anybody.
Yep, that's the correct wording. Is there
other than fellow competitors involved in the tournament. And once one of those competitors is then eliminated, they are not allowed to discuss the tournament with anybody that has been eliminated from the tournament.
Correct.
So me and Chris are on the Elite Series. We go fish. After day 2, I don't make the cut. I can't talk to Chris about how I was catching them so he can take advantage of his fish and my fish.
Correct.
But if me and Chris are still competing against each other, we can tell each other whatever we want.
That's right.
That's how that works. And as far as the app, it's available to everybody, so they're not breaking any of their information rules when they use it, because the app is just like watching a YouTube video essentially.
That's right.
Like I could go on a YouTube and be like, hey, fish this GPS coordinate with this spot, and it would be available to everybody. The app is too. So OMG Texas says, I don't bed fish, it's too easy and it puts too much stress on the females. Well,
I like catching them. So
yeah, I mean, I appreciate your opinion on that, but I'm going to go the other way, dog. I'm going to bed fish them.
I ain't never met a bass I didn't want to catch.
Well, just because you see them does not mean you can catch them. No difference than fishing bedding fish where you can see it. Yeah, that's true. On the Garmin deal, in bed fishing, that's true. Like, there's guys that are considered great sight fishermen Jacob Porosnik, Shaw Grigsby back in his day, Dean Rojas at his time. Like, there's guys that just, when it's a bed fishing tournament, when the fish are spawning, there's a lot on beds, there are guys that are always seem to do well in sight fishing. It's because they're better at getting fish they're looking at to bite. Right now, there's one guy that we know for sure seems to be better than everybody else at making them bite on that LiveScope when he's looking at them, and that's Patrick Walters.
How many times have I called you after fishing on Lake Palestine and been like, hey man, I had this one on a bed, she's huge, I couldn't catch her, but if you'd have been there, you'd have caught her. You know what I mean? It's just one of those deals, though. Like,
bed fishing is one of my deals that I've seen to have. I don't know. It's always worked. I don't know why, but bed fishing's always worked out for me. It's almost like we have things that we're just naturally a little bit better at in fishing. Some people are better jig fishermen. Some people are better crankbait fishermen. The sight fishing deal has always been something for me that just seems to work out really well, and I don't really know why. Like, I even tell some of my guide customers, if I could bottle up the way I shake a bait on a bed, I'd probably be able to make a lot of money.
Right.
Because I'll have customers sitting there fishing for fish, and they'll be doing exactly what I'm telling them to do, to the best of their abilities, and they can't get the fish to go, and then I'll pick it up, make a flip in there, and do this, and the fish comes over and bites. Yeah. And I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
But that's what I'm saying.
And I'm not the best at it. There's guys that are a lot better than me at bed
but
fishing.
I was just basically saying to that point, that's very true. I mean, I've had to bail out on bed fish several times.
Charles A. says, y'all stay off my bush that Jay Yellis caught a bunch of fish off of. I know exactly where that is, and I'm not going to confirm or deny whether I will or won't stay off that bush.
Jay Yellis did the damn thing.
Jay Yellis, for the old heads, man, showed up and showed out. And, hey, he was fishing different, right? Like,
yeah.
What was funny is him and Ed Lockram were fishing in the same area. And Ed was up there fishing 3 to 4 foot of water around them docks. And Jay Yellis was fishing in the dirt, Jack. Like in the dirt. Now, he did do some dock fishing today.
Right.
Most of the time, though, he was fishing really shallow with a spinnerbait.
Yeah, Jay Yellis is a bad man.
How do I find that app? Well, all you got to do is go search FishLife, the life spelled with a Y, L-Y-F-E. And it's on Google Play Store. It's on the App Store for Apple products. We also have a web app for all devices at www.fishlife.net. Also, on our regular videos, non-live streams, we have it linked in all the descriptions on our other videos on this channel that aren't live streams, which we've done like 4 live streams this weekend covering this tournament and giving, reactions after every day. So you may have to look back a few days to find a non-live video at this point. We got one go for it on the Ditty Do It.
It's always a good time. You'll put me on the spot.
Yeah, we're going to do some Ditty Do It.
Oh, gosh.
We're going to do some Ditty Do It.
I got to think up of some material. Hey, never mind.
Does water clarity affect LiveScope? Could Walters identify fish up the Natchez on Lake Palestine? I don't know for sure, but it's got to work in dirtier water, right? There's too many crappie fishermen that are using it. It's been more popular so far amongst crappie fishermen, and they fish in a lot of dirty water.
That's right.
So it's got to work in the dirty water. Your sonar and your downscan works fine in dirty water. Sometimes you have to tweak your settings a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, it's got to work in dirty water.
Yeah, if anything, it's probably just a settings adjustment, just like any other 2D.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I can tell you one thing. My next boat will have scope on it.
He said someone is going to have to come up with some glasses or something for LiveScope. These guys are going to have some serious neck and back problems staring at the bow all day.
I already got
doing this all day. Yeah, that's going to be an issue for your neck, 100%. The back issues are already prevalent in bass fishing. We all have them. I've got them. My back is trashed. I'm in pain every day from fishing too much.
It's these dang bibs.
And the neck deal is going to be, we're all going to have neck surgeries fishing, 100%. That's definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
It was funny. They made a comment on the live. I think it was the Robbie Morgan made a comment on the live about how, he's staring at that down at the bottom at the bow all day. He said, well, here sometime in the next year or two, they're going to have those dang LiveScopes sitting on a 4-foot stand, 5-foot stand on the front of the boat. It's just going to be drilled in on a metal stand up there on the front of your boat where you can just sit there and look at it naturally.
Man, I got a better invention. You ready for this? So what you do is you get a massage table with the hole cut out. And you lay it on the front deck so where you can lay and you can make your cast. Twitch.
Let's go.
And you can just be laying down in comfort of your own.
You just drill the legs of that massage table in the deck of your boat, and then you just lay on the massage table.
And then what you do is you get a cover, like a manhole cover, for sight fishing season, and you could use it as a platform to dead fish off of.
You just stand up on it for sight fishing. Bro.
I'm looking for a money man. That's all I'm saying.
This is not the worst idea you've ever had by far.
No.
This is one of your top 5 ideas ever.
That's sad. That's sad. Did I invent it? Did I do it?
The other Chris says, patent that. Patent that. Somebody noticed your new ink, dog. Show them your new ink.
Say what?
Stephen Latham noticed your new ink. Show him your new
I got
ink.
a lot of new ink.
You got a lot of new ink.
Yeah.
Give him the full send on that joker.
Full send. There's gonna be more in the next month.
With Swedish Twins giving you a massage to fix your back that's messed up from driving your boat all day, right? Somebody said with Swedish Twins giving you a massage. Could you imagine that, dude?
It's like,
Could you imagine being on the deck of your bass boat, laying on a massage table with the hole where you look down, looking at your LiveScope, throwing out there, catching fish, while Swedish Twins are giving you a massage?
I'm gonna hand my 7.2 medium heavy rod to the masseuse to set the hook for me. She's gonna pass that back
And
to
then
me.
you're gonna reel it in.
That's right.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Hey man.
Now we're making real progress in this deal.
If this ain't gonna be a part of bass fishing in the next 10 years, I don't want it.
I don't want it.
We fought revolutions for less.
Oh, man. Don't get him started on this. He's about to go sideways. And I love him, too. But he says, your Aggies need to chill out. They've been balling.
You ain't lying. You ain't lying. Too bad we can't get an SEC championship game, though, because of Alabama.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Busting Outdoors. Here we go. This is a good one. He says, I have it. It's a love-hate relationship with the LiveScope. Just because you can see them doesn't mean you can make them buy. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the way I'm gonna kind of describe it is, you know, whenever Side Scan came out.
And somebody else, Stephen Latham, said your new ink didn't make you prettier.
Well, I mean, that's not why I got it.
But
you're right.
That ship sailed a long time ago.
Yeah, dude. That was like after 3rd grade picture day. I was like, all right, you need to really polish up on your wit and be funny.
Yeah, you better get some personality.
Personality's gonna be your ticket, buddy.
All right, we're getting a bunch of Ditty Do It requests, so we got to do some Ditty Do It's. So last time we did Ditty Do It's they were fishing related.
You want to do non-fishing?
No, I don't necessarily want to do non-fishing. I think what we need to do is Ditty Do It's on fish catches, specifically on fish catch stories.
Okay.
Ditty Do It. And I went first last time.
Yeah. Okay, but man, we're gonna have to come. Okay.
It's gonna be hard because we know each other's stories. They get
Right.
it. If we're both right, we're both right. They still get the fun of the story.
Right. I say we let them vote on did we do it.
That's
and we
a
can
good
tell
point.
stories that you and I have had happen because there's just so many kind of lumped.
Oh
in.
no, you're going first.
No, I'm saying though, but like.
No, we're each doing our own stories.
Right.
You're not gonna steal my thunder.
Do you like Whataburger fries or do you like Chick-fil-A fries?
Whataburger.
Okay.
I like everything Whataburger.
Okay.
Ooh,
Pause.
squirrel. Squirrel. We're gonna chase it for a second. I had a customer get in my boat. I believe it was this last week. That wasn't from here.
Yeah.
That came down here from out of state. Had Whataburger for the first time, and he told me that Whataburger was trash.
What?
You remember that story about how on the Ditty Do It last time I said I had a liberal customer, I took him to the boat?
Yeah.
I took him to the bank and ended the trip?
So this actually happened.
No, this really happened. I didn't do that, but bro, I promise you I thought about it for real. Like when he told me Whataburger was trash, I was like, this guy's a serial killer. There's something thrown off with this cat. Yeah.
What? Your name's not Ted Bundy?
Right. That's not what I saw on the call log, homie. That ain't what the email says.
Oh gosh. All right. So do you want to do 3?
Do
in a
3.
row?
3 fish catch Ditty Do It. Tell me 3 fish catching stories, and I'll figure out which one you did or didn't do, or I'll do my best. Now I beat you last time. I got yours right. You got mine wrong. So let's see what you got.
All right. Here's one. Earlier this year, February, fishing Lake Martin Creek in our little bass club. Okay.
Yeah.
It was our second. Well, it was actually our first tournament of the year because the first one was supposed to be on Welsh. Welsh was too low.
Yeah.
Went fishing. It was blistering cold. Wind was howling. I couldn't hardly feel my hands. Well, Cameron and I are idling out of a creek that goes up under the train tracks. Yeah. Isn't that right? There's train tracks.
Or a road.
A road or whatever.
It's a bridge.
It's a bridge, nonetheless. idling out, I backlash my rod, I flip out with a black and blue jig to get my backlash out, and I go to start reeling it in. It gets heavy. I jerk on it, it's a 6-pounder. But my hands were so cold, I couldn't grab my reel handles, and so I grabbed my reel handles like this, and I'm just jerking it in like this.
Sometimes you do that.
Sometimes, and that was our first bite of the day, and we ended up getting second.
So you caught a backlash jigfish with frozen hands, reeling it like a short bus rider.
Essentially, in a nutshell.
Got it.
Got
Okay,
it.
that's number one. What's number two?
Number 2 is actually a fish loss story. I'm pretty sure I lost a 12-pounder this year on Lake Palestine because I was fishing with 10-pound line and a whacking worm in the back of a cove that I fish a lot of, and yeah, I didn't retie because I had caught 3 or 4 fish before that, and if I'd have retied, I probably would have landed this fish. But I'm pretty sure it was like a 12.
Okay.
Or an 18-pounder.
All right, what's number 3?
Number 3, you put me on the spot here.
You
Dog.
said an 18-pounder.
It might have been an 18. I don't know.
It was 11.
Can't confirm or deny.
Okay, what's number 3?
Number 3. Man, you already know that story. I was gonna say. Please pause for station identification.
Come on, let's go do something.
I'm working on it.
Just tell me your story, even if I know it. It's okay if I know it. That'll be one that I know the answer to.
Okay.
Let me save time. I know which one's not true. It's number 2.
Which one?
Number 2, you didn't do number 2.
Did.
You did do number 2.
I'm trying to come up with a lie.
You're trying to come up with a lie?
Yeah.
So you did the first 2?
Yeah.
You're terrible at this game.
Well, I'm trying to come up with a lie.
Okay, here we go. My turn to do Ditty Do It. I lost that one, so you got a chance to tie me up right
I got a chance to tie.
You got a chance to tie. All right. First one is, back before my guiding days, I used to fish a few small tournaments around here, and I was fishing one on Lake Hallbrook. And this may have been before I even met you. It's been a while back. I was fishing on Lake Hallbrook, and I'm fishing a tournament, and I catch a really good spotted bass keeper. And he's not like one of those spotted bass, like, he don't have to be 14 inches to keep. Like, this sucker ain't no doubt a keeper. Like, it's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like a 3-something pound spotted bass.
Big spot.
Yes. And I go weigh that fish in the tournament, and I didn't think nothing of it. It's, in Texas, it's like 3.5 pounder, no big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think nothing of it. Weighed it in, took my bag down there, let it go. Well, the dude from the tournament comes up and asks me where that spotted bass was. I said, well, he's swimming. He goes, bro, do you realize that was 1,000% the lake record spotted bass and might have been at that time a state record spotted bass? And I was like, didn't think about a 3.5 pounder being a record, but thanks for that though, dog. So
You just ruined my day.
yeah, that's story number 1. Story number 2, since you did a fish off, so I guess I'll do a fish off, and it'll involve a customer. We've been fishing and having a pretty good day in March, and we were fishing the shallow shell bed point deal. And this 2 or 3 years ago now. And my customer, I've got one of those big swim bait rods with a big smash tech convict tied on it, of course. And it's laying there, and these guys weren't the most experienced fishermen, so we hadn't been throwing the big swim baits. We've been, trying to do some stuff more in their wheelhouse that they can handle, right? And he goes to ask me about this swim bait. He's asking me about it. I'm telling him about it. And he asked me if he can throw it. I said, of course you can, bro. That's what it's here for. I said, now listen, odds are you might not get a bite on it, but if you do get one, it's going to count.
Mm-hmm.
He fires it out there. He's reeling it in, and I'm explaining it to him while he's reeling it in. I'm explaining to him how the swim bait works. You point at it, you reel it real slow. You'll feel him bump it, and then you don't react. You don't swing. You let them bump it. You just keep reeling, and then they'll come back and they'll eat it. And when they hit it, they'll hit it so hard you won't have any doubt. I told him, if you have any doubt about whether or not you should set the hook, don't swing. When they bite it, 1 or 2 things is going to happen. They're going to hit it so hard, they're going to knock a bunch of slack in your line, and you're going to know you need to set the hook because they hit it that hard. Or they're going to hit it going the other way, and you better be holding on to that rod real tight or they'll jerk it. Literally,
Right.
It's like the self-defense hook set. It's this. It's like it's that hook set, right? Well, as I'm telling this, I don't even get the words out of my mouth. He goes, oh, one bumped it. I went, keep reeling. Oh, he bumped it again. Keep reeling. And then he goes, oh, and self-defense hook sets, right? Mm-hmm. And I had told him right before that, I said, when you get a hook in one of these swim bait fish, you pull that rod up, and you just start reeling as fast as you can, and you never quit. You're not going to break this line. You're not going to break that knot, and you just can't let them get their head. You just got to keep them on the surface. If they get their head back down and start pulling, you're liable to lose them. And if you get them on the surface and just ski them, they'll never jump, they'll waller, and I'll have the net ready. So he's doing it, and he's got it, and he's coming, and it's not at the top yet, but he keeps coming, and it gets to the top. And when it gets to the top, about 15 feet from the boat, and I'm standing there with the net, like reaching out, like trying to just get this fish in the net as fast as I can. It gets about 15 foot from the boat, and when it comes up and he sees it, he goes, holy sh-.
And drops.
And he pauses, he quits reeling. He didn't drop the rod, he just goes, holy, and stops reeling. And when he did, that fish got its head, turned, took off the other way, snapped the line. That fish, 1,000% was over 13 pounds. It's probably like a 14 to 15 pounder. 1,000% fish is over 13 pounds. Well, I got one more to tell.
Yeah.
I got one more to tell. All right. Back in the day, speaking of, since it's Alabama rig conversation, we'll talk about that. We talked about that a little bit. Let's talk about the Alabama rig. The first year it came out, the very first year. Man, it was unbelievable how good it was. Okay, on Lake Fork, that first year. It's like December, and I'm out there fishing for some offshore fish, and this is way back when the lake was really, really low. And I've got these offshore fish going, and this is December, so you're not expecting to just go out there and whack a bunch, you know.
Right.
But with the A-rig, that first year it was weird. You did.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm out there fishing with that A-rig, and I go to catching these sand bass. But I'm catching a sand bass and a largemouth at the same time. And you'll catch like a big sand bass and like a 3 to 4 pound largemouth on every cast, it seems like. And I've got it going about 4 or 5 casts in a row. I'm doing this. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the next cast, I don't get a sand bass to bite. But I get just, it's like, it was probably the first time that maybe I felt like one of those really big swim bait bite type of bites where they just completely they knock slack in my A-rig. And I set the hook and it's like I'm hung up, dude. And it's not really swimming and it's not really moving. Okay? And then as I'm reeling it in, I feel it go whoom. And then I feel it go whoom again. And I get it to the boat and it feels like I'm dragging up a daggum tire, bro. Like I literally feels like I'm dragging up a tire. And I get it to the boat, my buddy that's with me, he's got the net, and I pull it up, and I've got 5 fish on one Alabama rig, and all of them are 5 to 6 pounds. I've got a 25 to 30 pound bag on an Alabama rig, and this dude nets like all 5 of these. And this was way back before I was guiding. I used to never tell anybody anything about where or how I fished. I didn't know anybody. I didn't care to tell them. I just went out and went fishing, so I never even did anything. I've got a picture of this, but I didn't even have a smartphone back then. Because I was so old school, I used a flip phone until I started guiding. Right before I started guiding, I had a smartphone, and I only did it so I could start running my guide. But you know that. You know that's true. You know that part's true. I literally don't have a picture because we took a picture on a flip phone, and when the flip phone went bad and broke, I lost the picture of it. But I caught a 25 to 30 pound bag on an Alabama rig on one cast. Which one of those isn't true? Spotted bass record.
Spotted bass ain't true.
It's true.
Is it?
It's very true.
Which one's not true?
The Alabama rig.
The Alabama rig.
The Alabama rig's not true. The customer losing the giant's true. The spotted bass is true. And no, I've never caught 5 at a time on an Alabama rig, but I have caught 4. They weren't that big though. And I've caught some really big ones on an Alabama rig.
I think I've caught 3 on an Alabama rig before, but that's the most I've ever caught.
Yeah.
And I knew for a fact number 2 was true.
Yeah, because I probably told you about that one, because that one upset me. Like, not a lot of opportunities for your customers to catch a 13 pounder, and not a lot of times when you've got a 13 pounder like less than 10 feet from your net and then you lose him. That was heartbreak. I was there on number 1. Cool. That spotted bass, it was huge. That Lake Holbrook spotted bass, it was, I mean, for a spotted bass, it was huge. I've never again seen a spotted bass anywhere close to that in Lake Holbrook.
So, speaking of lake record, state record, we were, back when I was in college, we used to go down the Natchez River. And when the white bass would start running, we'd go down there and throw rooster tails and just catch the mess out of them to get a bunch of fish to clean. My buddy caught what, at the time, we never got it officially weighed, but it was easily the Lake Palestine record white bass. Like, that's true.
He did it. Wasn't the funniest Did He Do It, but it was pretty cool fishing stories anyway, right?
Yeah, you caught me off guard with that.
Did I?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Off the cuff. Oh, did he do it off the cuff?
I was trying to come up with a lie, but I was like, man, I I gotta have to dig deep here.
Bob Davis says, bong, 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 BS meter on the last one, Billy. Cam said, no pick sounds false. They all nailed it. They got it. The part about me not having a smartphone and having a flip phone
that's true.
until like 2014 is true.
Yeah, no, that's true.
That's real.
Yeah. Because I remember, like, the first week I met this dude.
And the part about me never telling anybody anything about fishing except for the guys that, like my friends that fished with me, that's true too. I didn't talk about anything. I never posted on social media or anything.
Well, because I remember, like, the first week I met you, like, this dude was training me at my job now, and I was like, hey, bro, Enron called. They want their old company phones back. he was like, man, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we started talking fishing, and he's like, yeah, this guy's all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good times, man. Well, dude, this has been a great podcast. This has been a great freaking weekend. Like I said, this last weekend, the last 4 days has been one of my, it'll be one of my more favorite memories from my Lake Fork life. I've really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the event that Bassmaster put on. The atmosphere there is really cool. It's really unique. It's really laid back. It feels like those guys are all a family, and they want you to be part of their family. Bassmaster, hey, we can go back and forth on Bass Pro Tour, big name anglers. We've talked about all that. And I do think it takes something away. It lacks a little bit of luster going to a Bassmasters event and not having a lot of those guys there. That's unfortunate that is what it is. But all that being said, the type of organization that they're running right now at Bassmaster today and the type of events they're putting on, I have no doubt that it will continue to flourish and succeed at unbelievable levels. I was thoroughly impressed with everything they did this week, and I was thoroughly impressed with that field of fishermen and what they did at Lake Fork. It was unbelievable to watch. I learned probably more in the last 4 days than I have in the last couple of years. It was a great, great, great experience, and I was really glad that I was here for it. That's for sure.
The organization that has a tournament called the Bassmaster Classic ain't ever going nowhere. I got news for everybody. Facts.
That's also one of the, you're on fire now. That's also one of the smartest things you've ever said. No doubt about it. That's easy in the top 5.
We fact checked that, and it's fact.
It's a fact. Well, man, thank you guys so very much for watching this. OMG Texas says, I even remember when you put on a tournament. Who are you? You fished the tournament at Van Lake in Texas. That was like 6 boats. That's got to be Sonny Kopech, Tim Rhodes. There was a few other guys. I can't remember their names. Who are you? Because it's somebody I know personally if you fish that Van tournament. That's crazy. That's crazy.
When you see the name, you're going to be like, OMG.
Yeah, OMG. It might be Kopech or his partner, Jess Mowry, one of the two. I don't know which one. It might be one of them. That's my guess. It's one of them two. Because here's the deal. I caught that big old spotted bass. Mm-hmm. And then the jig that I caught it on, I lost, and I stole one out of Kopech's boat for the next 2. We fished 2 tournaments that day. I think that was the day we fished two different tournaments, and I stole one out of Kopech's boat that I caught, like it was like the one I caught that spotted bass on. Good times, man. That's why we do it. Great friendships, great memories, stuff to reflect on and look back on at the end of the day that is worthy of taking the time to think about again. It's a lot of fun. We appreciate you guys sitting with us through the last half of the podcast. Hope y'all enjoyed it. We've got a lot of great informative content coming out that I'm really excited to get to you. I really want y'all's feedback on that. Please give me the comments, the likes, all that stuff to let me know what y'all are thinking about the content that comes out this week. Thanks one more time. Chris, do that thing you do.
Patrick Walters, 2020, making bass fishing great again.
Things would be so much better.